This election is historic first and foremost because Colombia has never had a progressive left government in its long history. The best way to understand Colombia in the context of the hemispheric politics is as the crown jewel of U.S. empire, as the indispensable nation in the maintenance of the Monroe Doctrine, by which the United States has taken as its historic right to control, manipulate, intervene in hemispheric affairs. And so, even in the context of that first pink tide, as I mentioned, where many of the governments across the region were electing for the first time in their history, following the fall of various dictatorships, like we saw in Brazil, for example, electing these progressive leaders, whether it was Hugo Chavez or Rafael Correa or Lula da Silva, Colombia maintained its position as the primary conservative force in the hemisphere. And that wasn't just a simple alliance of conservative powers in Colombia with the United States. That was actively intervening to either disrupt existing projects of Latin American integration. So Colombia, for example, with Alvaro Uribe and the sort of great tradition of Uribismo named on his behalf, was the kind of thorn in the side of the Latin American integration project of the early 2000s. So while we were building these institutions like UNASUR, for example, which was the kind of great project of bringing these nations together to defend their sovereignty, to build a different developmental trajectory for the nations of Latin America, Colombia demanded the veto rights to basically say, we're going to throw sand in the gears of this project, if you'll forgive the mixed metaphor, and prevent the kind of more ambitious mode of Latin American integration that was sought by many of these progressive leaders. So that was one mode by which they became an important maintainer of a kind of Monroe Doctrine to prevent vehicles for escaping or at least defending the region against U.S. domination. But much more importantly was the cooperation between military armed forces in Colombia and the United States government. And this began in 1999 with the signing of Plan Colombia, or didn't begin rather there, but it escalated massively with Bill Clinton signing the Plan Colombia that was then accelerated by George W. Bush in the early 2000s, which saw basically under the banner of the war on drugs and cracking down on cocaine exports in Colombia, the massive export of military arms and to death squads and paramilitaries in Colombia, who were responsible for the vast, extensive, and sustained repression of peasant, indigenous, popular forces that we see the consequences of to this day, where we see consistent, massacres in 2022 alone, over 50 massacres of social leaders, indigenous peasant and trade union leaders who are trying to speak up and speak out against the control of their territories by these paramilitary forces. And of course, it's no coincidence that it's from Colombia that, for example, we saw the assassination recently in Haiti, that we saw the launching of the coup in Venezuela under Donald Trump, Colombia being this place that not only interferes in the multilateral experiments of the hemisphere, but very much plays a role in being the kind of handmaiden of a certain U.S. military intervention in the broader region of Latin America, and South America in particular.